Hi, I'm Elaine. Welcome to my podcast channel.
So I've heard that you go to Harvard and then you do your PhD at Harvard. Could you tell us about your specialties and what you specialize in? Even though we know you do math, like which specific field of study do you do? And then what's a day in the life of a PhD student at Harvard?
Yeah. So I'm a third year PhD student. And so like the story is a bit different for different years. Usually the PhD is five years long, so I am like right in the middle. Actually, I guess almost exactly in the middle at this point in the year. So my advisor is Lauren Williams, who's a professor at Harvard, and my area of study. I mean, there's like several like levels of things I could say here. The thing that I write the most papers on, I guess I would say, is something called Coxeter groups.
Mm-hmm.
And Coxeter groups, these are basically like symmetries that have to do with reflections in space. So you can like imagine a triangle, an equilateral triangle, has a lot of symmetry. One of those symmetries is like reflection over like a vertical axis or something.
Yep.
And so basically when you have like a shape that has a lot of symmetries, Coxeter groups are relevant. And so I study like lots of different aspects of these symmetries. And that's the main thing I study. I also do some other things in my free time that I don't, usually write about just because it's not my main area. But that's my main interest.
What's your day in the life of a PhD student like? So if you would like to share with us, like you wake up in the mornings and then you go to school and teach whatever class and then you visit this advisor. What is your typical day like?
Yeah, of course. So I mean, this is actually like pretty close to what a day in the life, what you just said is. I'll wake up, I'll go to the office. So I have an office at school, which is really nice. A lot of schools, you don't get a personal office. You are like in a shared room or where you like don't really have an area that's specific to yours. But I have an office, and so I go to the office, and if I'm teaching that semester, usually I'll do like lesson planning for an hour, and then probably classes like then. So then I'll go and teach class for an hour, probably meet with students for the next 30 minutes or so.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I take off the teacher hat and go to the researcher hat. So usually in the afternoons, I am either reading papers or textbooks, working on the blackboard or on paper or in like text notes, trying to solve some sort of problem. Or I am, I guess, taking a break and like talking to people in the common room, probably also about math. And in between those things, I do have meetings. So I meet with my advisor, I meet with collaborators, I meet with undergrad students who I'm mentoring. I just meet with other grad students to talk about math. There's a lot of people who are far more knowledgeable than me. And so I'm always interested in hearing their perspectives on stuff.
That sounds really interesting.
One of the most relevant ones for what I do is that we take our qualifying exams when we first get to the school. Like it's in the first week of classes, our very first year. Most schools, you take 2 years worth of classes and then have qualifying exams. And so basically, Harvard expects their graduate students to already have taken graduate level classes when they were an undergrad and be done with like what would be a normal course curriculum when they're already just starting. But the nice thing about this is that once you finish those qualifying exams, you really have no like course requirements as far as like taking classes. You pretty much have complete freedom in terms of like which classes you want to take, whether you actually need to take all like so many classes. Like for instance, this semester, since I'm away, I'm pretty much taking 0 classes. I'm actually enrolled in some classes, but I do not need to do work for them as a part of this system.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, so I can look up the notes on the course website, but that's about the extent to which I'm,
Yeah, I was wondering if is it because you can just upload your assignments online, so you don't have to be there in person that much?
Oh yeah, no, it's just that I don't have to do assignments at all. And so this is not just this is not like I'm just shirking work. Actually, none of the classes I'm in require any of the graduate students enrolled to do any assignments. And usually instead of exams at the end of, so instead of having exams at all, graduate level courses at a lot of universities don't have like final exams, they'll have like final projects. Just because, I don't know, they don't really want you to like memorize stuff and like, do a test, but they want you to like, explore the topic.
Yeah, I think it's a really good way to explore, and I think Harvard's really inclusive as well. So are you planning on to become a professor or?
Oh, so yeah, I guess I suggested this just now. Yes, that's right. I would love to work at a university as a professor once I graduate.
At Harvard?
No. They don't, well, for one thing, they don't hire people from grad school at Harvard. They only hire successful researchers, like people who have already been doing research for several years and have like done big things in the field. No, I would actually love to go to work at a school in North Carolina. I mean, I'd love to work at NC State University. I mean, I mentioned I really love my time there. So if I can, that would be great. Otherwise, I prefer to live in Raleigh, so which is where I'm from. So I'd love to get a job at one of the schools in that area, and there's several, so I have lots of options.
Yeah. So do you have any tips for anyone who's struggling with math regarding problem solving tactics, or how do you really improve, and then how do you make yourself like math and be passionate, or are there ways to do that?
Oh yeah, well I don't know how you make yourself be passionate about something. If you had that ability, the solution to all the problems is just become passionate about math and then solve all your problems automatically. But I do have some tips. A lot of times I had to do things that I do not particularly enjoy in math. And so when I get stuck on those, it's very annoying. I would suggest, probably the reason that it like is so easy to become dissociated with math when you're learning it in school is because you're sitting in class and the teacher's like telling you how to do something, and then later they tell you have to do this, and then you have to go and do it. And rarely is it the case that while you were sitting there in class, you like gain the understanding of how to do this thing. And so as you do this over and over throughout life, and you continue having this feeling of like, oh, I can't just do this thing that they just told me, like, oh, I'm an idiot, or oh, like this math is dumb, all these things like they're very natural feelings to have. And over time, this will definitely, like, I could definitely see this developing into a hatred. But the solution is to kind of, well, okay, I'm not gonna say the solution. The solution that works for me when I have this sort of problem is, so to learn how to solve a kind of problem in math, I would suggest, well, first you're gonna sit through class and like hear about it. This is probably gonna do like nothing for you. Then you have to do the problem, and this kind of sucks. You don't know how to do it. Okay, so you go through as much of the problem as you can. That would be my first recommendation. Even if that's just reading it and trying to figure out what it's actually asking you to do, that's great. And then do as much as you can. And then when you get to the stopping point, try and figure out, put into words what exactly is stopping you at that point. And then go and like look up some YouTube videos of somebody solving a similar kind of problem. Sadly, these don't exist for what I do, but they will exist for if you're in high school. So go look up some YouTube videos or read a textbook or something, depending on what kind of learner, what suits you best. And look, when they're doing that similar problem, look and see what they do at that point where you're stuck. And then once you see that, put it into words what they did. You don't have to say it out loud, just like in your head, say what exactly they're doing. And hopefully the thing you were stuck on and the thing that they did will combine into some sort of understanding, at least of that step of the problem. And the important thing is that like once you get that understanding, remember it. So either like write it down or just make sure you internalize that thing that you just understood. And hopefully this will help you move on with that sort of thing. Yes.
Right. For that's what happens for high school students or undergrads. Do you think for your PhD program, is it easy or harder to search things up online? Like, do people give it away online like that easily?
Yeah, nobody's giving. So yeah, when you're a mathematician or a student who's trying to solve problems that have not been solved before, there aren't people giving it away online, or else it's been solved before. So the exact analog of this doesn't exist. The thing that I do that probably is pretty common is rather than look up these videos that tell you exactly your situation, I go and read papers of people solving similar problems or people like other work in that area, and I try to see what's going on there, work through it, and then hopefully if I come back to my problem that I'm stuck on later, I will see something new there. So there's not like a direct analog of like looking up the YouTube video for it. Although there are some like really nice YouTube videos from mathematicians or from like professional math educators that are very good at explaining things that I thought I understood. Like 3 Blue 1 Brown is my favorite.
The weird thing is that some people you think you understood something in class. Oh yes, I got it. But then when you're told to do it yourself,
oh yes, so common. I get this all the time. Like whenever, even in the classes I take here at Harvard, like every time it's like always, oh, I already know this, and then you go do the problem and you have no idea how to do problems. Like, yeah, such a I feel that so hard. And that's why I was like very precise about the order of the things I suggested earlier, because that's the exact strategy I use even when I'm like learning stuff in a class, right? Like you do the problem and you get stuck and you figure out exactly what you're stuck on, and then you go back and you like read the notes or you watch a video or whatever, and then you figure out what exactly went on there. And then that's when you actually learn the thing.
So spending time reading over the notes and then really trying to think and contemplate over the problems, it's, I would say, the process of learning and then really knowing what you're doing. Because when you just see other people do it, it might make sense because they're explaining while doing the problem. You might think you understand. But I think the hardest part is to actually know it and then connecting it to the problem. And I don't know.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, if you imagine like solving a problem as like, maybe like a river flowing down like a channel or something. Well, it's like, okay, so I'm watching somebody else solve the problem, and their river is like flowing straight down the correct channel. Perfect. I try to solve the problem. I'm like pushing forward my river, and there's all these branch points, and I'm like, oh no, like where am I supposed to be going now? And then like maybe I hit a dead end. I'm like, oh no. Yeah, no, it's very much important that once you get to that point, that then you go back and look at what the person who was explaining it did. Because when they're explaining stuff in class, they're skipping all of the 300 years of mathematicians that have hit these roadblocks and been struggling on these problems, and then invented something or did something specific, and then all you see is what they did at the end. You don't see all the struggles they had. Yeah,
that's really true. So I would say struggle yourself and then just keep this continual persistence. That's a really, really good suggestion, I think.